My name is Helen Dorsey. The day we found out Lily had cancer, I felt my world split in half. Trust me, you'll regret skipping this story. So before you sit back and listen, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to Grace's Truth. Now get in the mood to listen to this story because it might be the ultimate sweet revenge. It started with bruises. Tiny purple marks that dotted Lily's legs like blooming violets. No explanation, no incident. Monica, my daughter-in-law, brushed it off. She probably bumped into something at school, she said, hardly looking up from her phone. But I knew better. I've been a mother, a grandmother, a social worker. I've seen the difference between playground bruises and the kind that warn you something deeper is wrong. I gently lifted Lily's pant leg that day while helping her change out of her soccer uniform. More bruises. Not just on her knees but along her thighs, her shins, even a faint one under her arm. And there was the fatigue too. That kind of tired that doesn't belong to an 8-year-old. I told Monica we should get her checked. She sighed like I had just asked her to donate a kidney. "She's fine, Helen," she said, pouring almond milk into her cereal, like the conversation didn't matter. "You always make everything a crisis." I almost dropped the spoon I was washing. The dismissiveness was chilling. But I didn't argue. I waited for Ethan to get home from work, my son, her husband, Lily's father. Surely he would listen. To his credit, he did. Sort of. He agreed to take Lily to her pediatrician the next morning, even though Monica rolled her eyes and muttered something about hypochondriac grandmas. I watched them pull out of the driveway, Lily curled up in the back seat, her eyes half closed. Something in my chest told me it wouldn't be nothing. I prayed I was wrong, but I wasn't. By the time the test results came back, we were seated in the pediatric oncology wing of the hospital. The sterile white of the room made it hard to breathe. The doctor, a woman in her 50s with a steady voice and kind eyes, laid it out plainly. Lily had acute lymphoblastic leukemia. It was early, treatable, but aggressive. She needed to begin therapy immediately, blood work, chemo, a port insertion, possibly a marrow transplant down the line. I couldn't move. Ethan clutched the armrests. His lips parted but no words came out. And Monica, she blinked. Just blinked. No tears, no gasp, no questions. The doctor waited, assuming shock. But I could feel it, the absence of emotion. The cold in Monica's eyes wasn't grief, it was calculation. When we got home, she barely spoke. Lily was asleep in the back seat again, unaware of the bomb that had just been dropped on her young life. I sat in the passenger seat while Monica drove, her fingers tapping on the wheel the entire time. And then she said it. "So what's the cost on all this?" Her voice was calm, too calm. "I don't care what it costs," I replied, turning to her, trying not to scream. "We do whatever it takes." She glanced at me. "Well, someone has to care. We're not millionaires." I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her, but I didn't. I just stared out the window, biting my tongue until it nearly bled. Later that night, I overheard her on the phone. She was talking to someone, I couldn't tell who, but her voice was low-clipped. "They want to start treatment this week. Can you believe that it's not even certain she'll make it through the first phase? I don't know. Thousands. Maybe more." I told Ethan we need to think logically. I stood in the hallway, hand trembling on the railing. I had seen this kind of detachment in other mothers who saw children as burdens, but never this close. Never in my own family. I wanted to scream. But instead, I went to Lily's room. She was curled up in her blanket, her hair spilling across the pillow like golden thread. Her breath was shallow, soft. I sat on the edge of her bed and held her hand. "I've got you, sweetheart," I whispered. "I don't care what anyone says. I'll fight for you." I meant every word. The next day, we met with the hospital financial coordinator. She explained the process: insurance coverage, co-pays, the assistance fund. It was manageable. Tight, yes, but not impossible. Ethan seemed relieved. Monica did not. "She doesn't need every single test they suggest," Monica snapped. "And the room upgrades. That's just unnecessary. She doesn't need a window view." The coordinator blinked in confusion. "The window view isn't an upgrade, ma'am. It's just the room we currently have available. Monica sighed again, that same sigh like the weight of the world had been dropped unfairly on her shoulders. I watched Ethan shrink beside her, and I knew in that moment this wasn't just going to be a battle against cancer. It was going to be a battle against a mother who didn't want to fight at all. I'll never forget the look on Lily's face when she learned what was happening to her. She was sitting in a tiny armchair in the children's oncology playroom, a teddy bear cradled in her lap. The nurse knelt beside her, soft voice, gentle tone. Lily looked up at me. Is my hair going to fall out? I swallowed the lump in my throat. Maybe, sweetheart, but it'll grow back. She thought for a second, then nodded. Okay, can I get a hat with cats on it? That's Lily. Brave, bright, still dreaming in colors even when the world turns gray. And I swore to myself I would not let that light go out. Not because of the illness, and certainly not because of a mother who refused to do what needed to be done. The morning after Lily's diagnosis, I woke up early and found her curled up on the couch, watching cartoons, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She gave me a sleepy smile, the same one she used to flash when she snuck cookies before dinner. But her eyes, they were duller now, like she already knew. I sat beside her and gently pulled her into my lap. How are you feeling, honey? She shrugged. Tired. But my bear said he's not scared. I kissed her forehead. Then neither am I. But that was a lie. Because I was terrified. Later that day, we met with Lily's oncology team, a group of specialists who wasted no time outlining the treatment protocol. They spoke with urgency, but also hope. The prognosis was good if we acted fast. The first few weeks are critical, the lead doctor said. We need to begin chemotherapy immediately. We'll do a lumbar puncture to check for spread, start her on steroids, and schedule blood work every few days. I nodded. Whatever it takes. Monica sat across from me, legs crossed, expression unreadable. Her lips moved, but it wasn't agreement that came out. And the cost, she asked, cutting off the doctor mid-sentence. The room went silent for a beat. We can walk you through your insurance coverage, the nurse offered gently. There's a treatment fund for children under 10. We'll do everything we can to help. But Monica's face was already tightening. We need to be realistic. There's no guarantee this will work right. My heart stopped. The doctor shifted in her chair. Statistically, there's a strong recovery rate with early intervention. But yes, cancer is unpredictable. And if she doesn't respond? Monica pressed. Do we just keep spending? Ethan cleared his throat. Monica. No, she snapped. We need to have this conversation. I'm not putting our family into financial ruin for a treatment that might not even save her. I stood up. I didn't mean to. It just happened. My body rose before my voice did. You're talking about your daughter, I said, voice shaking. Not a car repair. Not a broken appliance. Your child. Monica met my gaze, unblinking. And I'm being honest. Someone has to be. Ethan didn't say another word. He just looked down at his shoes. We got home late that night. Lily had fallen asleep in the back seat again, her tiny fingers curled around a piece of gauze on her arm from the blood draw. Monica didn't speak as we walked inside. Ethan carried Lily to her bed. I followed, helping tuck her in. When we stepped into the hallway, I turned to him. What's happening to you? He rubbed his face, exhausted. Monica's just overwhelmed. No. She's not overwhelmed. She's calculating. You heard her, she's already thinking about cutting losses. That's not parenting. That's something else. He looked away. She's just scared. I placed a hand on his arm. Then she needs to be scared in a way that doesn't endanger her child. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I could see it, the war inside him. A husband pulled by obligation, a father paralyzed by fear, and somewhere in the middle, a man slowly realizing his wife may not be the person he believed she was. The following days blurred together. We were supposed to begin Lily's pre-treatment labs, But Monica suddenly rescheduled the appointment, saying Lily looked too tired to handle the stress. I checked the calendar, no new appointments had been made. I confronted her in the kitchen. "You're delaying on purpose." "I'm protecting her," she said calmly, slicing cucumbers as if we were talking about lunch plans. "You don't throw a child into treatment just because doctors say so. They're not gods." "She's running out of time, Monica. The longer you wait, I'm her mother," she snapped, slamming the knife onto the cutting board. "Not you. I get to decide what's best." "No," I said, stepping closer. "You're deciding what's convenient." She stared at me, a flicker of something in her eyes, rage maybe, or guilt masked as defiance. Then she turned back to her salad like I hadn't said a word. Later that week, I called the hospital myself. The nurse recognized my voice and spoke carefully. "We haven't seen Lily in 4 days," she said. "We tried reaching out, but—" "She's not being brought in," I said quietly. "I understand. Can I ask?" Her voice softened. "Is she safe?" I didn't know how to answer that. Because in our home, Lily was warm-clothed and fed. But she wasn't safe. Not when the people responsible for her were choosing money over medicine, comfort over courage, and my son, God help me, was letting it happen. That night, I told Ethan I would pay. "I'll cover everything," I said. "Treatment, transportation, whatever it takes. Don't let money be the reason we lose her." He looked stunned. "Mom, that's—" "I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking. I'm offering. I've lived my life. I have enough in my savings to help. She needs this now." He nodded slowly. "I'll talk to Monica." But I already knew what was coming. The next day, Monica pulled me aside. She was smiling, a tight, patronizing smile. "Thank you for your offer," she said, like I had just dropped off a casserole. "But we won't be taking your money." I stared at her, dumbfounded. "Why?" "Because this is our family, our responsibility. And I won't have you using your checkbook to undermine my authority. This isn't about your authority. This is about Lily. She's my daughter, Monica." Hissed, her smile fading. "Not yours." "No," I said quietly, "but she's mine to protect. And if you won't, I will." Monica turned and walked away, her heels clicking on the floor like punctuation. I stood there alone in the hallway, my hands trembling at my sides. This wasn't going to be a conversation anymore. This was going to be a war. I've always trusted my instincts. It comes from years in social work, from sitting across countless kitchen tables listening to stories that didn't quite add up. You learn to recognize the little signs, the too perfect smiles, the rehearsed answers, the gaps in logic disguised as just how we do things. So when I started noticing Monica intercepting the hospital mail, I knew something was off. The first envelope came on a Tuesday. It was a plain white packet, clearly marked from the Children's Oncology Center. It had Lily's name on it. I found it lying on the kitchen counter unopened while Monica was out running errands. Thinking she might have missed it, I set it aside in the mail basket. The next morning, it was gone. Not filed. Not handed over to Ethan. Just gone. I asked Ethan about it over breakfast. He blinked at me. "What mail?" It happened again 2 days later. I was coming in from the garden and saw the mail truck pulling away. I opened the box and there it was, another hospital envelope. I brought it inside and placed it by the fruit bowl. This time, I watched. Monica came downstairs not 10 minutes later. She made herself coffee, picked up the envelope, and slipped it into her purse. No explanation. No mention. I didn't say anything right away. I just stood by the sink washing my hands as if I hadn't seen a thing. But something in me hardened. This wasn't forgetfulness. This wasn't even negligence. This was control. That night, I asked Ethan again if he'd reviewed any of the medical bills. He hesitated, then gave a sheepish smile. "Monica handles that stuff," he said. "She's better with numbers." "Better with numbers," I repeated. "Or better at hiding them." He flinched. Mom, come on. No, Ethan. I'm serious. Do you know how much has been paid toward Lily's care? Do you know what's covered and what's not? Do you even know if she's been billed for missed appointments? His mouth opened, then closed. He didn't know. He trusted Monica. He always had. She wore decisiveness like armor. She made decisions quickly and stuck to them with that clipped confidence that made you feel stupid for asking questions. I'd fallen for it once, too. But not anymore. The next day, I watched her throw away a hospital statement. I watched her do it. She stood in the laundry room pretending to sort clothes. Then, slipping a folded piece of paper from her back pocket, she tossed it directly into the trash underneath a pile of dryer lint and tissues. When she left the room, I fished it out. It was a late payment warning. A note from the billing department saying Lily's chemo sessions were on hold until the outstanding balance was addressed. I felt the blood drain from my face. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake listening to the tick of the hallway clock, wondering how we had arrived here, in a house where a little girl's life was hanging in the balance, and her own mother was blocking the very care that might save her. What kind of woman looks at her daughter and sees a financial liability? What kind of man lets it happen? The next morning, I made a choice. If Monica wasn't going to let the bills come to light, I would find another way. I asked the hospital to send duplicate statements directly to me. At first, they hesitated, standard privacy concerns, but after some gentle prodding and a few old connections I still had at the clinic, they agreed. When the first packet arrived, I sat at the dining table and opened it with trembling fingers. Thousands of dollars in deferred payments, canceled appointments marked as parent declined, gaps in treatment dates, a full blood panel that was never followed up. I wanted to scream. Instead, I did what I'd always done when faced with hard truth. I took notes. I recorded the dates, the names of the physicians, the missed milestones in the treatment plan. I wasn't just preparing for a confrontation anymore. I was preparing a case. One afternoon, I picked Lily up from school. She looked pale, too pale, her steps slower than usual. "Did you have lunch today, baby?" I asked gently. She nodded, then shrugged. "Mom said I had too many snacks this week, so I just had carrots." I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Later, while she napped, I searched the kitchen. The fridge was almost empty. The pantry had little more than crackers, canned soup, and some of those organic shakes Monica loved for herself. I checked Lily's room. Her medications, the ones the doctor insisted she take daily, were untouched. The blister pack hadn't moved in a week. When Monica came home that evening, I was waiting. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just held up the medication bottle. "Why isn't she taking this?" She didn't blink. "Because it makes her nauseous. She hates it. She needs it." "She's 8, Monica said coldly. "She doesn't get to make that call." "But you do," I snapped. "I'm her mother. You're not acting like one." She stepped closer, her voice low. "Back off, Helen. You're a guest in this house." "No," I said. "I'm Lily's protector. And I won't let you keep gambling with her life." She turned and walked away, not another word. But I could feel the ice spreading in the room behind her. That night, I made a decision. This wasn't just about money. This wasn't even about denial. This was about power. Monica wasn't afraid of the cost. She was afraid of losing control, of someone else stepping in, proving that her version of family management wasn't working. She'd rather risk her child's life than admit she wasn't in charge. And that made her dangerous. The first time Monica canceled Lily's physical therapy appointment, she claimed it was because of traffic. The second time, it was because the session wasn't worth the copay. I remember the exact phrase, how she said it over dinner with a casual shrug, like they were charging extra for dessert, not reducing a child's chances of walking comfortably again after chemo fatigue. "You wouldn't understand, Helen," she said, stabbing her salad. "You're retired. You don't see how tight everything's gotten." "No," I replied calmly, "but I see Lily wincing every time she climbs the stairs." She waved me off. She's milking it. Kids are manipulative like that. You give them too much attention and they'll find a way to keep getting it. The words hit me like a slap. I looked across the table at Ethan, silently pleading for him to say something. Anything. He didn't. He just kept chewing his food like we were talking about the weather. From that day on, I started writing things down. Not just the major decisions, but the little ones. The quiet, almost invisible cuts Monica was making to Lily's care. It was always framed the same way: budgeting. She reduced the physical therapy visits from twice a week to as needed, but no one ever scheduled another. She said the special protein-rich shakes the doctor recommended were too expensive, and instead gave Lily watered-down juice and crackers. When I bought the correct ones myself and left them in the fridge, they mysteriously disappeared 2 days later. I noticed that Lily's energy dipped after those budget weeks. She'd sleep more, skip her evening story time, and groan when getting out of bed. But every time I brought it up, Monica dismissed it with that same hollow logic. She's just playing it up. She needs to learn resilience. We're not spoiling her through this. That's not what strong parents do. Strong parents? No. This wasn't strength. This was something else entirely. It was neglect. I began accompanying Lily to every appointment I could. I pretended it was just to give Monica a break, but really, I was checking for gaps, missed sessions, unfilled prescriptions, notes from doctors Monica had conveniently failed to mention. One nurse pulled me aside gently. "Mrs. Dorsey, we're concerned about the follow-through on Lily's care plan. Some of the required labs haven't been drawn. We've left messages, but we're not hearing back." I nodded slowly, my heart sinking. "Please keep contacting me directly. I'll make sure it gets handled." That's when she whispered it, as if embarrassed. "We've seen this before. Sometimes parents get overwhelmed. Or scared. But if you feel something's not right, don't ignore it." I didn't. One afternoon, I returned home early and found Lily asleep on the couch. No pillow, no blanket, just curled into herself like a wounded animal. Her cheeks were pale, her skin slightly clammy. Monica was nowhere in sight. I checked the kitchen. Nothing. Then I noticed the pill organizer, the one with her daily meds, sitting untouched on the counter. I opened the Tuesday compartment. Still full. I opened the Wednesday one. Full too. I ran my hand across the back of my neck to stop the shaking. When Monica walked in 15 minutes later holding a fresh latte, I confronted her. "Why hasn't Lily had her meds for 2 days?" She blinked. "What are you talking about?" "The organizer's untouched." She glanced at it. "Oh." She said she didn't feel well, so I skipped them. "You skipped them." "She didn't want them, Helen. She's 8. And I'm her mother." "No. You're the woman standing between her and a chance to get better." She dropped her purse on the counter with a thud. "You know what? I'm tired of this narrative. Just because you had a government job and helped people in crisis for a living doesn't mean you know what's best for my kid. I know enough to see when a child's being neglected." That word, neglected, made her eyes flash. "Watch yourself," she hissed. "No," I said, walking right up to her. "You watch yourself. Because if you keep going like this, someone's going to make sure you're not the one making decisions anymore." I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake thinking about what I'd just said, and whether I truly meant it. The terrifying truth was, I did. I was reaching a line I never thought I'd have to cross with my own family. But Lily's pale face haunted me. The way she whispered that she didn't want to tell her mom she was tired again, because mom gets annoyed. Annoyed? At a sick child. What kind of mother gets annoyed that her daughter can't breathe right? The next day, Lily had an appointment with the pediatric oncologist. Monica was too busy to go, so I took her myself. The doctor looked surprised. "You're back," she said, flipping through the chart. I was beginning to think Monica was managing everything solo. "She's managing," I said quietly, "but not well." She looked up sharply. "Is Lily missing doses?" "Yes. Therapies. Yes. Her eyes narrowed. Would you be willing to speak with a hospital advocate? I paused, then nodded. That was the moment the fight officially began. I met with the hospital advocate 2 days later. I told them everything: the skipped meds, the canceled appointments, the missing bills. I handed over copies of my notes. The advocate listened, asked thoughtful questions, and said gently, "If you believe Lily's health is being compromised by her primary caregivers, there are steps we can take." I left that meeting with a folder. Inside it, a checklist of documentation, contact information for a family law consultant, and most importantly, a form. It was a petition for temporary guardianship on medical grounds. I didn't fill it out that day, but I stared at it for hours, because a war had already begun in my home, a quiet one under the surface behind closed doors and controlled narratives. And I was done pretending it wasn't real. Lily deserved better, and I was going to give it to her no matter the cost. I waited until Lily was asleep. Her breathing had that shallow rhythm again, the one that made me count between each exhale. She clutched her stuffed fox close to her chest, whispering to it as she drifted off the way she used to do before the hospital visits became fewer, before her energy drained like light fading from a room. Once I was sure she wouldn't wake, I stepped into the hallway and found Ethan sitting at the dining table, laptop open, pretending to read emails. I didn't sit. "Can we talk?" He looked up, blinking as if I'd startled him. "Sure. Everything okay?" "No," I said. "It's not." He closed the laptop, slowly, wary now. "What's going on? I need you to listen." I began, without interrupting, without defending her, and without trying to minimize what I'm about to say. "Mom, please." My voice cracked. "Just listen." He nodded reluctantly. I sat down across from him and opened the folder I'd brought from my room. Inside, photocopies of missed appointments, screenshots of messages from the hospital portal, and a printed log of Lily's skipped medications and therapy sessions. "I've been tracking what's happening," I said, laying each piece down like cards at a poker table. "And it's not just forgetfulness or stress. Monica is deliberately withholding Lily's care." He didn't touch the papers. He just looked at me like I'd spoken in another language. "You're keeping tabs on us," he said. "I'm documenting neglect," I replied. "There's a difference. That's a serious accusation. So is refusing chemo because it's too expensive. So is throwing away medication. So is calling a sick child manipulative." His eyes narrowed. "Where did you hear that? From her?" "Multiple times." He stood up abruptly and paced the kitchen, running both hands through his hair. "I can't deal with this right now." "You have to," I said, standing too. "Your daughter is getting sicker, Ethan. She's not just tired, she's deteriorating. And you know it. You see it." He shook his head. "You're overreacting. Monica's doing her best. This has been hard on her. On all of us. She's not doing her best. She's controlling everything, including you. And it's killing your child." His shoulders tensed. I pushed forward. "You've always been a good man, Ethan. I know that. But right now you're choosing silence. And silence in the face of this is complicity." He turned sharply, eyes flashing. "She's my wife. And Lily is your daughter." He hesitated. That crack, that brief flicker of pain, told me I had reached something inside him. But then he pulled back, armor snapping into place. "You don't understand what it's like being in the middle." "No, I don't," I admitted. "Because I'd never stay in the middle. I'd pick the child." His jaw tightened. "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is," I whispered. "It's exactly that simple." We didn't speak the rest of the night. He went to bed in silence. I sat at the kitchen table alone, staring at the folder of evidence between my hands. The ache in my chest wasn't just grief anymore. It was fury. Not the explosive kind, but the quiet, simmering kind that makes you feel like your own skin is too tight. I had always believed Ethan would protect Lily, that even if Monica faltered, he'd step in. But now I realized he was just as trapped as I was. Maybe more. Monica had him wrapped in layers of guilt, obligation, and fear. She was a master of control, not through rage or violence, but through strategy. She wore her helplessness like a costume, using words like, "I'm overwhelmed, and I just need you to trust me," like weapons. And Ethan, he'd spent years being the peacekeeper. But peacekeepers don't win wars. They just delay the inevitable. A few days later, I heard them arguing in the kitchen. I stood at the top of the stairs, heart pounding, listening to the rhythm of their voices. "She thinks she's in charge of everything now," Monica was saying. "Your mother's always meddled, but this is too far." "She's worried," Ethan said, quieter. "She's controlling Ethan. Always has been. And if you don't start backing me, I swear to God," the rest was muffled. But the tone, that tone I recognized. It was the same one I'd heard too many times in cases I'd handled, not yelling, not bruising, but subtle dominance. The kind that coils around you, slowly making you believe that choosing anything else would mean losing everything. I stepped back into the shadows. He wasn't just afraid of confrontation. He was afraid of her. That night, Lily had a fever. I sat by her bed with a cool cloth pressed to her forehead. She whimpered in her sleep, tossing and turning, skin burning under my palm. I woke Ethan. He came in, half asleep, still fumbling for understanding. "She needs to go in," I told him. "Now." He hesitated, then turned to get his keys. When we got to the ER, the nurse took one look at Lily and immediately brought us into triage. Her white blood cell count was dangerously low. They administered fluids, ran a battery of tests, and admitted her overnight. The doctor didn't mince words. She should have been brought in sooner. Her treatment has clearly been interrupted. Ethan sat beside the bed, silent, staring at the floor. I said nothing. Because now the consequences were no longer hypothetical. They were real. And they were on record. When we returned home, Monica was waiting. "I told you not to take her to the ER without discussing it," she said coldly. Ethan didn't answer. I stepped past her and said only this: "She almost died. And if it happens again, I will take legal action." Her face twisted. "Are you threatening me?" "No," I said. "I'm making a promise." That night, I began filling out the guardianship petition. My hand didn't shake. Not this time. Because Ethan might have been paralyzed by fear. But I wasn't. Not anymore. There's a sound I now associate with heartbreak. It's not screaming. It's not crying. It's the soft wheeze of a child who can't breathe easily, the fragile rattle at the back of Lily's throat as she tries to sleep. It came in slow waves, growing worse each night until even her stuffed fox seemed to curl closer to her in sympathy. The hospital had given us a full treatment calendar. Blood work every 5 days, chemo on Tuesdays, check-ins on Fridays, a strict medication and nutrition plan in between. It wasn't optional. They were clear. But Monica, she had her own version of reality. I rescheduled the labs, she'd say, sipping tea, like she was managing a PTA calendar. They said it wasn't urgent. I'd call the hospital later and hear something else entirely. We didn't receive any notice. Lily was a no-show. When I asked Monica directly about it, she smiled thinly and said, "You must have misunderstood." But I wasn't misunderstanding. She was lying. I started writing down every discrepancy, not just for me, for Lily, for the court, if it came to that. I documented each time Monica said she'd taken Lily to a follow-up only for the hospital to confirm otherwise. "Labs went great today," she said once unprompted while unloading groceries. But I'd called the hospital earlier that morning. No one had checked Lily in. No labs were drawn. No appointment had ever been made. I asked Ethan later casually, "Did you go with them?" He shook his head. "No," Monica said she wanted to go alone. Of course she did. Because there was no appointment to go to. I began to watch everything. I didn't trust anything she said anymore. Not her smiles, not her excuses, not even her silences. I checked pill bottles. I noted timestamps. I asked Lily questions gently without leading her. Did you go see the doctor this week? No, Grandma, she said one afternoon, curled up in a blanket. Mom said I didn't need to. Did she give you your medicine today? Lily blinked. No. She said my stomach needed a break. A break. Like cancer was a job. Like pain had a punch-out clock. The next weekend, Monica left the house early, claiming she had errands to run. I waited 20 minutes, then slipped into the master bedroom and found her planner on the desk. I don't like invading privacy. It goes against every fiber of who I am. But this wasn't about curiosity. This was about survival. Flipping through the pages, I found exactly what I feared. Appointments scratched out, new ones, never added notes that said things like, skip Thursday. Push to next cycle if she's stable. Don't tell Helen. Check if hospital needs actual signature. It was all there, written in her own hand. Proof that she was managing Lily's illness like a project. Like an inconvenience she could delay and manipulate to fit her mood or her wallet. When Monica returned that day, I was sitting in the living room, planner in my lap. She froze in the doorway. I found this, I said calmly, and I read it. Her face didn't even flinch. You went through my things, I did. You had no right. No, I replied, but I had a reason. And you gave it to me. She stepped forward, her tone turning icy. You're crossing a line, Helen. I stood up and met her eyes. The only line I'm crossing is the one between silent witness and active protector. You are playing games with a child's life, and I'm done watching. You're going to regret this. Not as much as you're going to. After that day, I stopped hiding my actions. I informed the hospital that any and all updates were to be sent to me. I confirmed Lily's next appointments myself. I drove her to therapy, waited outside blood labs, and sat in every follow-up. Monica tried to block me first with words, then with tantrums, then with silence. But it was too late. Her grip was slipping. And Lily was declining. Her appetite shrank. Her skin paled to a sickly yellow hue. The circles under her eyes darkened. She no longer had the energy to play. Even books, her favorite comfort, sat untouched on her shelf. One morning, I sat at her bedside while she stared blankly at the ceiling. You feeling okay, sweetheart? She turned her head slowly. It hurts everywhere. I gripped her hand. I'm here. We're going to fix it. She nodded, too tired to even smile. Okay. That night, I cried. Not loud sobs. Just tears that refused to stop, tracing slow rivers down my cheeks as I sat in the hallway outside her room, whispering prayers to a ceiling that never answered. I called the lawyer the next morning. I'm ready, I said. Do you have everything we discussed? I have more. We met again at his office. I laid out the planner pages, the hospital confirmations, the skipped appointments, and the notes, all carefully organized. He read through each page with a quiet intensity, nodding as he made notes on a legal pad. This is strong, he finally said. There's a pattern, a deliberate one. It might not be abuse in the traditional sense, but it absolutely qualifies as medical neglect. What happens next? We file for emergency guardianship, he said. With this documentation and Lily's worsening condition, we have a real case. He paused, then added, but be ready, it's going to get ugly. I nodded. I was already living in ugly. This was my way out. Lily's way out. When I returned home, Monica was waiting in the kitchen. You're late, she said, without looking at me. I didn't answer. I just smiled, because the clock was ticking. And this time, it wasn't counting down to disaster. It was counting down to justice. I tried one last time. Maybe it was naive. Maybe it was pride clinging to hope. But part of me still believed that if I offered the one thing Monica seemed to care about, money, she'd finally put Lily first. So I waited for a calm moment. A quiet evening after dinner when Lily was resting upstairs and the house had gone still. Monica was on the couch scrolling through her phone. Ethan sat in the armchair beside her, eyes glued to the TV but not really watching. The distance between them could have filled a canyon. I sat across from them and cleared my throat. I've decided, I said carefully, to transfer funds into a private medical account. One that will cover Lily's treatments fully, chemo, hospital visits, prescriptions, everything. No more delays. No more questions about coverage. Monica didn't even look up. That's unnecessary. It's not, I replied, and it's already in motion. Now she looked at me. Slowly. Coldly. This is what you've wanted all along, she said. Control. No. I want Lily to live. You want to be the hero, she snapped. You want everyone to see you swoop in and save the day so they'll forget I exist. I shook my head. I'd give anything to not be in this position, Monica. I would love to trust that Lily's parents are doing everything they can. But they're not. You're not. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Mom, maybe we should talk about this later. No, Ethan, Monica interrupted, standing up. Let's talk about it now. She's crossing every line. She's undermining us. She's going behind our backs. This is still our daughter. And you're still her mother, I said. But I'm the only one acting like a parent. Her face twisted. You're not in charge here. Then why am I the only one making sure she's getting her treatments? Ethan stood now, rubbing his forehead. Everyone just stop. Please. But the silence that followed was suffocating. Monica turned to him, arms crossed. Well, are you going to let your mother take over our lives? He looked at her, then at me, then down at the floor. I think, he began. Maybe we should let her help. She stepped back like he'd slapped her. Unbelievable, she hissed. You'd rather side with her than with me. No one's picking sides, he said softly. We're just trying to help Lily. No, she spat. She's trying to steal her. I froze. What did you just say? You heard me, she snapped. You've wanted her to be yours since the day she was born. You think I'm not good enough. You think I'm too cold, too logical. But guess what? Emotion doesn't pay hospital bills. You're right, I said, standing. It doesn't. But neither does withholding care, because you're too proud to admit you need help. She glared at me, eyes narrowed. This is war now, Helen. I nodded slowly. Then prepare to lose. That night, Ethan came to my room. He stood in the doorway like a child again, uncertain and scared. She's unraveling, he said. I know. She said. She said if I keep siding with you, she'll leave. Take Lily and go. My heart seized. She won't get far, I said. Not legally. Not once the guardianship petition is filed. He sank into the chair by the window, rubbing his hands together. Do you really think it's come to that? I think, I said, choosing my words carefully. It came to that a long time ago. We just didn't want to admit it. He looked up at me, eyes glassy. I didn't want to believe she could do this. That she'd risk Lily's life over. What ego fear. She doesn't see Lily as a daughter anymore, I said softly. She sees her as a liability. Ethan's face crumpled. I wanted to hold him, but I knew he needed to sit in that pain. He needed to finally feel the full weight of what we were up against. The next morning, Monica was gone. No note, no explanation, just her purse missing and her car gone from the driveway. I didn't panic. I called my lawyer. He told me exactly what to do. Report it, file a temporary injunction to prevent her from removing Lily from the state, and prepare for escalation. By noon, we received a text from her. I need space. Don't contact me unless it's about Lily's health. I stared at it for a long time, because Lily's health was the very thing she'd spent months avoiding. 2 days later, I took Lily to her rescheduled chemo session. She was weaker now, pale, slow-moving, but still trying to smile. The nurse greeted her by name. The doctor updated her chart. The IV went in smoothly. But as the meds began dripping into her small arm, Lily looked up at me and whispered, "Is Mommy mad at me?" I nearly broke. "No, sweetheart," I said, brushing hair from her face. "None of this is your fault." "She doesn't talk to me much anymore," she whispered. I kissed her forehead. "You don't need to carry that. Just rest. I'm here now." And I would be for as long as it took. That night, I updated the medical trust I had set up. I assigned full oversight to myself and added clauses about misuse oversight protections and access for Ethan in the event of emergency, but not Monica. Not anymore. She had made it clear she didn't want the burden of responsibility. So I took it from her. Not out of spite, but out of love. The kind that never walks away. It was a quiet afternoon when I found it. Lily had just finished a short nap after her latest chemo session, and I was helping her organize her schoolwork at the kitchen table. Since Monica had left, or more accurately fled the house, had been calmer but not empty. Her presence still lingered in corners, in folded laundry, in the unspoken gaps Ethan and I danced around each day. Lily's homework folder was stuffed with loose papers, crayon drawings, math sheets, permission slips. I was sorting through it when I noticed a plain white envelope tucked between pages of a coloring book. I almost didn't pull it out. But I did. And that's when everything shifted. Inside was a single-page bank statement addressed to Monica sent to a P.O. box I'd never seen. At first I thought it might have been junk mail she shoved in by mistake. Then I saw the balance. Over $47,000 in a high-yield savings account. I stared at the number. Frozen. The room felt smaller. My pulse thudded in my ears. That amount, that untouched, carefully tucked away money, was more than enough to cover Lily's treatment plan twice over. More than enough to pay off the hospital bills Monica had claimed were impossible. More than enough to buy Time Choices options. And she had it. She'd had it this whole time. I walked into the living room and showed Ethan. His hands trembled as he held the paper. "What is this?" "A secret account," I said flatly. "One she didn't want you to know about." He dropped into the couch, stunned. "How? Why would she hide this?" "Because if you knew she had the money," I said, "you'd expect her to spend it. You'd expect her to help Lily." And she didn't want that. She wanted control. He ran his hands through his hair. "She told me we were wiped out. She said we had to be strategic, that there was barely enough left to get through the year." She lied. He didn't argue. He didn't cry. He just sat there holding that piece of paper like it might burst into flames if he blinked. That night, he called her. She didn't answer. He left a message, short, clipped, and cold. "Monica, I found the bank statement. The one for the P.O. box. We need to talk. About everything." She texted back hours later, "I had to protect our future. You'll thank me someday." That was it. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Let's talk." Not, "How's Lily?" Just justification. Just self-preservation. I forwarded the statement to our lawyer the next morning. He responded within 10 minutes. "This changes everything. It proves intentional financial withholding. We'll include this in the guardianship file." It didn't feel like victory. It felt like nausea. Because I'd held on to this sliver of hope, foolish as it was, that Monica was drowning under pressure. That maybe she was scared, disconnected, overwhelmed. But this was a plan. A calculation. A safety net built for herself while her daughter's body deteriorated. Later that afternoon, I sat with Lily on the porch swing. She rested her head against my shoulder, too tired to talk. Her fingers tracing the hem of her shirt. "Grandma," she whispered. Is Mommy mad at me?" My throat tightened. "No, baby. She's just not very good at being around sick people." "Is it my fault I squeezed her hand?" "No, not even a little bit." She was quiet for a while. Then she said, "I liked when she made me pancakes before school." I blinked fast to keep the tears back. "I know. I did too. Ethan came outside later, his face pale but resolute. I want to help file the guardianship petition, he said. I want to sign whatever I need to. I nodded. Are you sure? He sat beside us and looked at his daughter. She's all that matters. That evening we gathered the final documentation, the medical records, the hospital letters, the missed appointments, and now the secret account. Monica's financial betrayal was no longer speculation, it was evidence. The lawyer filed the motion for emergency guardianship the next day. We were officially seeking to strip Monica of legal decision-making for Lily's care. And we had the receipts. Monica didn't respond for 3 days. Then she sent an email. Not to Ethan, not to me, to the lawyer. This is a personal family matter and should not be handled in court. Helen is emotionally unstable and has been interfering from the start. This is retaliation, not concern. She attached a handful of screenshots of me helping Lily, texts I'd sent Ethan asking about medication schedules, and an old voicemail where I raised my voice. She tried to paint me as unhinged. She tried to flip the narrative. But it was too late. The facts were too strong, the timeline too clear. Intentional neglect, financial hoarding, and now character defamation. The court date was set. We had 2 weeks. 2 weeks to prepare for a hearing that would determine whether I could take over legal guardianship of my granddaughter and whether Monica would be formally named unfit. Lily's life was no longer just hanging in the balance of medicine, it was hanging in the balance of law. And I would not fail her. I didn't expect her to show up. But Monica had a knack for bad timing and worse motives. It was the Sunday before our emergency hearing. The sun was unusually warm for fall, and I had just come in from trimming the roses when I heard the front door open without a knock. She walked in like she still lived there, not like a woman who had abandoned her daughter's medical care, not like someone accused of neglect. She wore a cream blouse, ironed and flawless, with oversized sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. Ethan was in the kitchen. I heard him stop mid-step when he saw her. "Where's Lily?" Monica asked casually, like she was inquiring about leftovers. "She's resting," I replied from the hallway. "She had treatment yesterday. She's weak today." Monica turned toward my voice. "How convenient." Ethan came around the corner, his face hard. "Why are you here, Monica?" She didn't look at him. "To talk." I set down my gardening gloves and walked into the room. "Good. Because I've been waiting for this." We sat at the dining table, the same table where we'd once shared birthdays and holiday dinners, the same table where now we prepared legal paperwork to protect Lily from her own mother. Monica set her purse down with a sigh. "This is all getting out of hand." "You made it that way," I said. "We tried everything else first." "I'm the only one who's been realistic," she snapped. "You all keep acting like this isn't what it is." "What is it, Monica?" I said quietly. "Tell me." She narrowed her eyes. "A money pit. A nightmare. Something no family survives intact. And you're pretending like throwing dollars at it will change the outcome." Ethan flinched beside me. I didn't blink. "You're talking about your child?" I said, my voice cold. "Your daughter. Who trusts you. Who still talks about your pancakes like they're the best part of her day. She's sick, Helen. She's not getting better. She could if you let her. But you've been standing in the way since day one." "I've been protecting my future," she said, her voice rising. "Do you understand what happens when you pour your entire life into a child who might not survive?" Ethan spoke then, soft but clear. "You're not supposed to protect your future, Monica. You're supposed to protect her." She looked at him like she didn't understand the words. "I'm not bankrupting myself for a—" Maybe she hissed. "She's not the only thing I have to think about." My heart broke, not just for Lily, but for Ethan. He was pale now, staring at his wife like he didn't recognize her. I turned to Monica. "So that's it. You've decided Lily's not worth saving unless it's guaranteed she's sick," she snapped. "And you're obsessed with looking like the hero. If she dies, you'll be the grieving grandmother. Everyone will comfort you. I'll just be the mother who didn't do enough. So no, I won't play that game. I won't hand over everything I've worked for to perform pain for other people's sympathy. You're not protecting yourself, I said, trembling. You're retreating. You've already buried her in your mind, and you're too selfish to admit it. She stood abruptly, knocking her chair backward. I'm not staying here to be judged. You already have been, I said. By your own daughter. She froze. Ethan stood too, but his face had changed. His jaw was clenched, fists tight at his sides. He wasn't cowering anymore. He wasn't trying to appease. You need to leave, he said. Monica looked at him like she might cry, like the performance was about to begin, but he didn't budge. She's my daughter, she whispered. You haven't acted like it in months, he replied. Then without another word, Monica grabbed her purse and stormed out. The silence after the door closed was deafening. I turned to Ethan. He sat down slowly, rubbing his hands over his face. She meant it, he said. She meant every word. Yes, I whispered. She did. And I didn't stop her. Now you are. That night, I lay awake beside Lily's bed. She was asleep, face turned toward the window, the pale glow of the nightlight soft on her cheek. I watched her chest rise and fall. I remembered her first birthday, the way she clapped her hands when she saw her cake. The frosting stuck to her cheeks, the sound of her laugh echoing in my tiny kitchen. I remembered her third birthday, running through the sprinkler in a yellow swimsuit, screaming with delight as water sprayed into the sky, and I thought of Monica. How she used to hold Lily then, not perfectly, not warmly, but present. At least back then she'd shown up. Now she had checked out of motherhood entirely. And I couldn't let her back in. The next day, we finalized the witness statements and submitted the bank records, the medical documentation, the texts, and now, thanks to Ethan, the transcript of Monica's confession. We were ready. She could try to perform her pain in court, but the truth would be louder. The day I walked into the lawyer's office, the air smelled like leather and printer ink, sharp, clinical, serious. I sat across from a man named Daniel Markham, a calm-faced attorney in his early 40s, the kind who didn't blink when handed messy situations. I handed him a thick folder with trembling hands, not because I was afraid of what I was doing, but because of what it meant. It meant I was admitting something I never thought I'd have to say out loud. That my granddaughter needed protection from her own mother. Daniel flipped through the documentation quietly. The bank statement missed medical appointments, the hospital correspondence screenshots of texts Monica had sent Ethan, and my own notes from the last several months. When he finished, he closed the folder with a quiet click. You've done your homework, he said. I'm a grandmother, I replied. We don't sleep through storms, we prepare. He nodded, then leaned back. What you're dealing with isn't uncommon, unfortunately, but it is serious. This isn't a custody issue. This is a child endangerment issue dressed in polite clothing. What you've gathered suggests medical neglect, and under the law that's enough to pursue temporary guardianship. Temporary, I asked. Initially, he said. Emergency guardianship can be granted quickly if the judge believes the child's health is in immediate danger. Once that's in place, we can move to make it permanent if needed. I swallowed hard. And what are my chances? With this evidence strong, he opened the folder again and pointed to the bank statement. This alone proves she had the means to provide care and refused. Couple that with your documentation of mistreatments and the doctor's reports. It paints a clear picture. I nodded slowly. What happens next? We file. There will be a court hearing. Monica will be notified and given a chance to respond. It's likely she'll contest, maybe even claim you're unstable, overstepping, emotionally manipulative. She already has. Then we stay focused on the facts, he said. The law doesn't reward noise. It rewards proof. When I walked out of the office, the sun was high in the sky. For the first time in weeks, I felt steady. Not because the fight was over, but because I finally had tools to fight with. At home, I found Ethan in Lily's room reading to her a picture book about tigers she'd loved when she was little. His voice was soft, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder as she dozed. He looked up as I entered. "She's sleeping better," he whispered. "She knows she's safe." He nodded, then stood. "How did it go?" he asked. "It's happening," I said. "We're filing tomorrow." He took a deep breath. "Do you think Monica will retaliate?" "She already has." But now I added, "She's out of moves." Monica called that evening. Ethan answered in the living room, putting her on speaker without warning. Her voice came through sharp and high. "I heard you filed. I hope you know what this means." Ethan didn't respond. She continued. "They're going to dig through everything: finances, school reports, doctor visits. You think you're protecting her, but you're not. You're setting her up for embarrassment." Still, he said nothing. "You really think your mother knows better than me?" That's when I leaned in. "I don't think it, Monica. I know it." A pause. "I'll destroy you in court," she said. I smiled. "Try." She hung up. We spent the next 3 days preparing. Daniel guided us through every step, preparing affidavits, organizing timelines, printing email records, gathering notes from Lily's doctors, therapists, and nurses, all of whom offered letters of support stating plainly that her care had been inconsistent and interrupted by non-medical interference. April, my niece, came to stay with us for a few days. She was a quiet pillar in our house. She helped organize files, cooked dinner, took Lily on short walks when she had the strength. She never asked questions that would open wounds, she just helped hold everything together. One night while Lily slept, I found April crying softly in the kitchen. "I just can't believe it's come to this," she whispered. "Your own daughter-in-law." "She was always controlling," I said, "but I never thought she'd see her daughter as a weight." "She's more than that," April whispered, wiping her eyes. "She's a gift." I nodded. "And I won't let her be discarded." When the hearing date was confirmed, Thursday 10:00 a.m., I didn't feel dread. I felt resolve. I bought a small blue folder, the kind with brass clasps, and placed every document inside in the order Daniel outlined. I wrote Lily's name on the front in pen. Then I added a sticker, a tiny fox just like the one on her stuffed toy. It reminded me why I was doing this. Not to punish Monica, but to protect Lily, to give her a chance, to be the adult she needed when her own mother decided she wasn't willing. That night, Lily had a nightmare. I heard her cry out and rushed to her room. She was sweating, her small body curled up tightly, fists clenched in her sleep. I sat on the bed and stroked her hair. "It's okay, baby. I'm here," she whimpered. "Don't let them take me." It shattered me. "I won't," I whispered. "I promise. No one's taking you anywhere." She drifted back into sleep, her breath slowly evening out. I stayed there long after holding her hand, and I made a vow. If I had to burn down the lies Monica built, the image, the pretense, the cold armor she wore, then so be it. Because this wasn't just legal, it was personal. This was about love. And I wasn't backing down. There's a difference between knowing something and proving it. I'd known for months that Monica was sabotaging Lily's care. I'd seen the canceled appointments, the misplaced prescriptions, the odd excuses, but the legal system didn't move on instinct. It moved on evidence. Cold, documented, unshakable. So I made a decision, and it broke my heart to do it. April helped me. We were in the kitchen late at night, sipping tea, when I finally said it. "I want to install a camera." She set her mug down slowly. "Where?" "In the medicine cabinet," I said. "And maybe one in the living room near the hallway." She blinked, then nodded. "You think she'll come back?" "She'll come to take something," I said. "Maybe Lily. Maybe just control. Either way, I need to be ready." We ordered 2 small motion-triggered cameras disguised as household items, One looked like a plug-in air freshener, the other a decorative photo frame. April installed them discreetly, her movements practiced and calm, like someone who'd lived through betrayal before. When we were done, I exhaled deeply. It felt like a line had been crossed, but not by me. I wasn't the one who betrayed this family. I was just the one cleaning up the aftermath. 2 days passed. On the third, Monica let herself in. She didn't call, didn't knock, just appeared in the house like a ghost too stubborn to stay gone. Ethan was at work. I was upstairs with Lily. April was folding laundry in the guest room when she heard the front door open. She stayed quiet. She knew the cameras were rolling. Monica's voice came through clearly on the playback. "Honestly," she said into her phone, pacing the living room, "I can't believe they're dragging me to court for this." A pause. "No, I'm not worried. I've got receipts too. You don't get where I am without knowing how to spin a little guilt." She laughed sharp and bitter. Then her tone shifted. "I'm just here to grab a few things, mostly to make it look like I care. They don't realize yet that this is all just a pity project. That girl's been sick since she was born. It's like pouring money into a broken glass." My stomach turned. Then we saw her move into the hallway, into the bathroom, into the frame. She opened the medicine cabinet, pulled out Lily's pills. One by one, she dropped them into a plastic bag, tied it off, and shoved it into her purse. Then she looked at herself in the mirror. Not my problem anymore. And she left. I sat in stunned silence as April hit pause on the video. We stared at each other. I knew I whispered, but hearing her say it. April shook her head slowly. "That's not just neglect. That's intent." Ethan got home late that evening. I didn't greet him at the door. I just handed him my phone and pressed play. I watched his face shift from confusion to horror to disbelief. He sat down hard on the couch. "She threw them out." I nodded. "She called Lily a pity project." He didn't speak again for a long time. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red. "I don't know who I married." "You do," I said gently. "Now. Finally." We gave the footage to Daniel the next morning. He watched it without expression, then looked up and said, "This seals it." "You think it's enough?" I asked. "More than enough," he replied. "The judge won't hesitate now." The hearing was in 3 days. Daniel filed an emergency motion to admit the footage into the case. It was granted. Monica's lawyer, whoever he was, would receive it that afternoon. She would know for the first time that her mask had slipped, and this time it was recorded. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt exhausted. Like I'd been holding up a roof for months and had finally been told I could let go. Lily sensed something had shifted. That evening, she pulled at my sleeve while I was brushing her hair and asked, "Is Mommy still mad?" "No," I said quietly. "Then why doesn't she come anymore?" I hesitated. "Because sometimes people don't know how to handle love, or illness, or fear." "Is it because I'm sick?" My voice caught. "No, sweetheart, it's because she's scared. And when people are scared, they sometimes make bad choices." Lily looked down at her lap. "I miss when she used to sing to me." I knelt in front of her. "You are so loved, Lily. By me, by your dad, and by so many people who are never going to leave." "Even when I'm bald," she whispered. I laughed gently, kissing her hand. "Especially then." The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window watching headlights pass like quiet ghosts on the street below. The air was heavy with something I couldn't name, not dread, not hope, but the strange silence that arrives before a storm. In the morning, everything would change, for better or worse. But one thing was already certain. Monica had shown us who she truly was, and I had the proof. The courthouse smelled like stale paper and cold air. It was early, too early, but I'd barely slept anyway. Ethan and I sat side by side in the waiting area outside courtroom 2B, Lily's blue backpack between us, filled not with toys or books, but folders, letters and statements we never should have had to collect. Daniel arrived 10 minutes before the hearing, calm as ever, holding a leather briefcase like it was just another Tuesday. But for us, this day could change everything. And then, she arrived. Monica. Hair curled, blazer crisp, makeup meticulous. She walked in like nothing had happened, like she hadn't abandoned her daughter's treatment, hadn't mocked her illness, hadn't thrown away medication like it was expired aspirin. She made a point of not looking at us, but her lawyer, a clean-cut man in a gray suit, gave us a nod that was somewhere between polite and condescending. When the bailiff called our case, I felt Ethan's hand tighten on mine. It was time. The courtroom wasn't full, but it felt dense, like the air itself had turned into stone. We sat at our table, me, Ethan, Daniel, while Monica and her lawyer positioned themselves opposite us. The judge was a woman in her 60s, stern but fair-eyed, the kind of woman who probably raised children of her own. I hoped she could see what I saw. Daniel opened. He laid out the case slowly, methodically, the documented neglect, the missed treatments, the financial records, and finally, the video. The judge watched the footage silently. Monica didn't. She bowed her head as her own voice filled the courtroom, casually cruel, dismissive, tossing out her daughter's medication while calling Lily a pity project. When the footage ended, the judge looked directly at Monica. "Ms. Bradford," she said. "Would you like to respond?" Her lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client maintains that this clip was taken without consent and reflects a private conversation during a moment of emotional distress. Was the medication discarded?" The judge interrupted. A pause. "Yes," the lawyer admitted. And the voice on that video, that was Ms. Bradford. "Yes." Monica finally raised her head, eyes glistening. "Your Honor," she said, voice trembling. "I've been under immense pressure. No one understands what it's like to watch your child suffer and not know how to fix it. I panicked. I made mistakes. But I love my daughter. I was just lost." Her performance was well rehearsed. Her voice cracked on cue. Her fingers trembled just enough. But the damage was already done, because while she performed grief, I had proof of betrayal. Daniel stood again. "Your Honor," he said, "no one is questioning Ms. Bradford's feelings, but today is not about feelings. It is about actions. Her actions show a repeated, deliberate pattern of medical neglect, not from financial inability, but from unwillingness. The law is clear. When a parent refuses necessary care for a dependent child, the state must intervene. We're requesting immediate temporary guardianship for Ms. Helen Dorsey in order to ensure that Lily receives uninterrupted treatment." The judge nodded, taking notes. She looked at Ethan. "Mr. Bradford, as the biological father, where do you stand in this petition?" Ethan stood, shoulders squared, voice steady. "I support it completely," he said. "My daughter's health comes first. My wife has not shown the willingness or the stability to manage her care." It was quiet after that, the kind of silence that feels like the whole room is holding its breath. Then the judge spoke. "This court finds that the presented evidence demonstrates a clear pattern of medical negligence on the part of Ms. Bradford. The video evidence, corroborated by financial documentation and witness statements, confirms that necessary medical care was obstructed." She paused. "Temporary guardianship is hereby granted to Ms. Helen Dorsey, effective immediately." I exhaled, a sound more like a sob than a breath. The judge continued. "Ms. Dorsey will assume all medical decision-making authority for Lily Bradford. A follow-up hearing will be scheduled in 30 days to evaluate conditions for permanent guardianship." She looked at Monica. "Ms. Bradford, if you wish to contest this ruling further, you may do so with additional evidence, but you are advised to comply fully with court orders in the meantime." Monica didn't respond. She stared at the floor, lips tight, fury leaking through the cracks in her composure. Outside the courtroom, I broke down. Not from fear, not from rage, but from sheer overwhelming relief. Ethan held me shaking. "She's safe now," he whispered. "I know," I said. "I know." That night, Lily lay in her bed as I tucked her in, her tiny hand wrapped around mine. "You look happy, Grandma," she said softly. "I am," I whispered. "Is Mommy still mad?" "She might be," I said. "But she doesn't get to decide things anymore. You're going to be okay. Promise, with my whole heart." She smiled, then fell asleep. Peacefully. For the first time in weeks. And as I sat beside her, I thought of the courtroom, the lies, the video, the paper trail, all of it. And I realized something simple and terrifying. The system didn't save Lily. I did. There's always one last move. You think it's over? That the court order will close the chapter, that reason will finally settle the storm. But people like Monica don't walk away. They push until the door slams shut on their fingers. And that's exactly what she did. It started with a voicemail. The kind you don't expect, not after a court hearing, not after a legal decision. I was at the pharmacy picking up Lily's prescriptions when I noticed a missed call from an unknown number. Then came the message. "This is Ms. Patel from Spring Hill Elementary. Please call us back immediately. It concerns Lily. Thank you." My heart dropped. I called back, gripping the steering wheel with one hand, my voice barely steady as I asked what happened. "She's safe," Ms. Patel assured me right away. But her mother came to pick her up. I felt the blood drain from my face. "She what?" She came into the office with a smile, said she was here for Lily's 12:15 dismissal. "But we flagged her in our system after your court papers came in. We stalled. Called you. Lily doesn't know she's here." I thanked her probably too quickly and told her I'd be there in 10 minutes. I left the car in the pharmacy lot, receipt still dangling from the bag, and drove like something was chasing me. Because something was. When I pulled into the school parking lot, Monica was standing near the front steps, arms crossed, her designer sunglasses back in place like armor. Her posture was perfect, the kind that says, "I know I'm right, even when the law has just proved you aren't." I got out of the car, slowly, trying not to scream. "Leave," I said flatly. She didn't move. "I just came to see my daughter." "You don't have that right anymore. She's my blood." "Your blood is toxic," I snapped, "and the court agrees." Her jaw tightened. "I'm not trying to kidnap her," she scoffed. "I just wanted to take her for lunch. One meal. One meal she can't afford to skip because you threw out half her treatment. Do you even know what her counts are today?" "She's mine, Helen. She's not yours to hurt anymore." Ms. Patel came out a moment later, a school security officer trailing her clipboard in hand. "We've called the local police," she said gently. "They'll arrive shortly to document the incident." Monica finally turned toward, her voice turning syrupy sweet. "I think there's a misunderstanding. I'm her mother." "We have the guardianship paperwork," Ms. Patel said, holding up the file. "Court-validated and notarized. We're not releasing Lily to you." Monica looked at me like I was the one who betrayed her. Like I was the criminal here. The security officer cleared his throat. "Ma'am, please wait by your vehicle. You're not permitted to remain near the school entrance once guardianship has been reassigned." That was when the act cracked. Monica's voice rose sharp and bitter. "She's poisoning you all against me. That old woman is making me out to be some villain." "She didn't need to," Ms. Patel replied calmly. "You did that all on your own." Monica's lips curled as if she was about to unleash a storm of accusations. But then, the police car pulled in. The flashing blue lights cut across the sidewalk like a divine interruption. She froze. Suddenly, the storm inside her seemed to lose its wind. The officers spoke with the staff, reviewed the paperwork, and approached Monica. She didn't resist, not physically. But her words were ice. "She's making it look like I don't care," she told the officers. "But no one knows what it's like. No one knows what I've sacrificed. One of the officers nodded politely. Ma'am, regardless of feelings, the law is clear. You violated a court order by attempting to take custody of your daughter. You're receiving a formal written warning today. Any future attempts like this could lead to arrest. Monica's hands twitched at her sides. Then she turned to me. This isn't over. I met her gaze. Yes, it is. When I walked inside to collect Lily, she was sitting on a bench outside the nurse's office, swinging her legs, humming a soft tune. Her face lit up when she saw me. Grandma. I bent down and hugged her tight, tighter than I meant to. She noticed. Are you okay? I nodded against her shoulder. Everything's okay now, baby. She held my hand as we walked to the car. She didn't ask about Monica. She didn't have to. Some truths don't need to be explained. They just settle in the silence, final, sharp understood. That night, Ethan sat beside me on the porch. He had barely said a word all evening. She almost took her, he murmured finally. She didn't. He nodded. I'll never forgive myself. You don't need to, I said softly. Just never forget. That's how we protect her now. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an old photo, Lily at age 3, standing between the two of them, holding both their hands. She deserved better than both of us. She has better now. And in the silence that followed, I knew we were finally done letting Monica set fires in this family. We'd spent enough time burning. Now we were building again. You don't notice how loud chaos is until it's gone. In the weeks after the courtroom battle and Monica's failed stunt at the school, the house finally began to feel like something I hadn't felt in years. Safe. Not just for Lily, for all of us. The air changed. No more whispered arguments behind closed doors, no tension pulsing through every mealtime. The silences were no longer sharp. They were restful. The mornings began with warmth instead of waiting for a storm. I turned the house into a haven. It started with Lily's room. We painted the walls a soft lavender, her favorite color. Ethan and I hung paper stars from the ceiling. I told her each one represented a treatment she'd already survived. We'll fill the whole ceiling, I said, standing on a stool with glittery tape. She beamed. Even the corners, especially the corners. We created routines, structure, joy. Each Sunday, I made pancakes with blueberries shaped like smiley faces. Tuesdays were movie nights. Fridays meant bedtime stories that turned into made-up adventures halfway through. It wasn't just distraction, it was healing. Lily's treatments continued, aggressive, exhausting, relentless. But for the first time, she didn't walk into the hospital with fear in her eyes. She walked in with resolve. And so did we. Ethan began to transform too. It wasn't immediate, but slowly, steadily, he stepped into fatherhood like it was something he'd been waiting for his whole life. He met with the doctors himself, asked questions, took notes. He kept a binder in his car with all her test results, meds, and appointments. He attended every session, even the hard ones. One night after Lily had thrown up her dinner and was curled into my lap, Ethan came into the room with a damp towel, knelt down and said, "You're stronger than I ever was." And she whispered back, "Only because you're with me." It broke him, and it rebuilt him. Monica vanished after the school incident. Her lawyer sent one last letter threatening an appeal, but Daniel sent back the footage again, and that was the end of it. No more texts, no more calls, no flowers, no apologies, no sudden showings at the hospital. Nothing. Somehow that hurt Ethan more than anything. She just stopped, he said one evening, sitting with me on the porch. She always stopped when things weren't about her. But Lily's her daughter. No, I corrected gently. Lily's your daughter. You're her parent. Monica was a character she played for a while. He didn't respond, just nodded. We watched the stars for a while, the paper ones inside, the real ones outside, both shining for Lily. We enrolled Lily in a support program at the local children's center, a small, brightly lit space where other children facing serious illness gathered weekly to draw, sing, and laugh without the heaviness of tubes and scans hovering over them. She loved it. Her favorite friend was a boy named Devin, who wore a Batman cape even on non-costume days. "Because I'm fighting villains too," he'd say proudly. They colored together, napped side by side on beanbags, and traded sticker sheets like currency. It was the kind of connection Monica would have never noticed. But I saw it for what it was: survival, choosing joy. One afternoon, I found Lily in the backyard sitting in the grass, a notebook open in her lap. "What are you drawing, baby?" She turned it around. It was a picture of our house with stars over the roof. "And that's you and Daddy," she said, pointing. "And who's that?" I asked, nodding to a third figure, smaller, a little rounder. "That's me," she smiled. "Before I got sick." I knelt down beside her. "You're still you, Lily, just stronger." She looked up at me, eyes wide. "Grandma, yes. When I'm not sick anymore, can we still have pancake Sundays?" I smiled. "For the rest of your life, sweetheart." As the weeks turned into months, something even more powerful than court orders or medical reports began to take root: trust. Not the kind that's spoken aloud, but the kind that grows quietly in between therapy appointments and bedtime kisses. One morning, Lily came into the kitchen with a small cardboard box in her hand. "For you," she said shyly. Inside was a bracelet made of mismatched beads and pipe cleaners. I slipped it on. "It's magic," she said. "It makes sure you don't forget." "Forget what?" "That you saved me." And that was when I knew. The real fight had never been just about the court, or Monica, or the medication. It was about reminding Lily, and maybe Ethan, and even myself, that love isn't proven by biology. It's proven by presence. There's still a road ahead, some treatments left, some nights of pain. But every day we wake up and face it together, we win a little more, one blueberry pancake at a time. The day we rang the bell at the hospital, the hallway filled with applause. Nurses, techs, even the janitor stopped to cheer. Ethan held Lily's hand as she stretched on her tiptoes to reach the cord, her bald head covered with a glittery pink beanie, and her eyes shining brighter than I'd ever seen. One pull. The sound echoed clear, sharp, victorious. And just like that, a chapter closed. It wasn't the end of treatment, not completely, but it was the end of the worst. The endless infusions, the overnight stays, the terrifying nights when her fever wouldn't break, the vomiting, the shaking, the quiet sobs she tried to hide so we wouldn't worry. That part was done. We stepped into the sunlight outside, and Lily turned her face toward it like a flower. "Can we get ice cream?" she asked. "Anything you want," Ethan said, lifting her up into his arms. "Even dinner for breakfast. Even that." Back home, I went into my room, closed the door, and sat on the bed. I cried. Not loud, not broken, just release. Tears for what we'd survived. Tears for what we'd nearly lost. And perhaps hardest of all, tears for the small flickering part of me that had once hoped Monica would come back and be the mother Lily deserved. But she never did. After the school incident, she vanished. No calls, no visits. Not even on Lily's birthday. Her name stopped appearing in Lily's drawings. She no longer asked if her mother would be there for milestones. That absence, once jagged, had dulled into something else: acceptance. We kept Lily busy, not to distract her, but to help her live. She joined an art class at the community center, made new friends. She laughed louder, moved faster, and even told jokes the nurses didn't see coming. "Why did the skeleton skip chemotherapy?" she asked one day. "Why? Because he didn't have the guts." We all groaned. She cackled. Victory came in those giggles. Ethan returned to work part-time. Not because he wanted to escape, but because we were stable now. We had a rhythm. Me at home during the day, him home in the evenings, April visiting often. A village no longer on fire. The house changed too. I redecorated the living room, took down the photos of the past that felt too heavy, and replaced them with new ones. Lily covered in paint from her first art show, Ethan with frosting on his nose after helping with cupcakes. Even me caught mid-laugh by April during one of our Sunday brunches. We weren't forgetting. We were choosing. And in that choice, I felt peace return to the walls of this house. One evening, while Lily napped in her new hammock chair, Ethan came to sit beside me on the porch. The air was soft. Autumn was whispering its way into the leaves. "She's going to be okay," he said quietly. I nodded. "She already is." He looked at me, then reached into his coat pocket and handed me a folded piece of paper. "What's this?" I filed the paperwork. I opened it slowly. A notarized statement naming me as Lily's permanent legal guardian even if Monica ever came back. "I want her safe," Ethan said. "Always. And you're the reason she is." I didn't respond. I just reached over and took his hand. There's a kind of strength that doesn't roar. It doesn't scream in courtrooms or punch through walls. It shows up in the quiet again and again, in packed lunches, in folded blankets, in waiting rooms at midnight. It grows in the corners. It holds when everything else falls. That's the kind of strength I found. Not in revenge, not in anger, but in presence. Monica's name no longer holds power here. She became a ghost we no longer feed. We don't hate her. We simply don't need her. And that might be the most powerful transformation of all. Lily's hair is growing back. Just wisps at first, soft, golden, defiant. Like the first green sprout in spring after a long, cruel winter. She still gets tired easily. Still needs checkups, still takes daily meds. But she's here. Laughing. Running. Living. That's more than we dared hope for in the beginning. So now I pass this story to you. To anyone who has ever had to fight to be heard, to anyone whose instincts were dismissed, whose protection was questioned, whose love was doubted. You're not alone. You're not wrong. And you're not powerless. Sometimes the fiercest thing you can do is stay. Stay loud. Stay loving. Stay steady even when the people closest to you try to shake your footing. Because sometimes the future is built not with rage, but with resolve. If this story moved, you tell me. Tell me your version. And if you know someone who needs this story today, share it. Because there's someone out there waiting for proof that love can still win. And maybe this is their proof. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned to Grace's Truth for more stories that uncover what's hidden and remind us of the power of simply not giving up.